Hello to everyone watching. Wanted to give an update from my court hearing on the 4th for trespassing. The trespassing charge. Let me tell you a little bit about what happened with this piece of property here. The property that's adjacent to me, which would be Edie's Landing, I cut the grass. I believe I cut my grass. And they sent me another charge for cutting the HOA property. And the cops came out here and seen my mower over in my yard. And no one ever seen me mowing the grass. So when it went to, I don't know if I told you this, but I represented myself. This is probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've done, is standing up for myself in court. And people, let me tell you, in Chesapeake, I don't even know if you have a whole lot of rights or if any at all. There's a very big, major problem in this area. They don't recognize your rights here. What I've done was I stood up for my right to be heard in court, and they said that I was mowing the property, and there's no proof of that. There's no proof that I was mowing this property. Now, someone else could have mowed it. I pay somebody to cut my yard sometimes. I got a big piece of property, over 3 acres. So if I was to pay to cut my yard, now my yard goes on the other side of the ditch. I own the ditch and slightly on this side. And I own, it's hard to say exactly where the line is, but you can see the road where the cars are going by. Supposedly this guy had rode by at 40 miles an hour, looked through this little window, saw me mowing grass, and got a arrest warrant for me mowing the HOA property grass. That's the grass we're looking at right now. So you can't stop in the middle of the road and observe me, but he supposedly rode by and observed me from that little view as you see the cars going by. I don't believe that I mowed it, but I went to court to see what they were talking about. And they said that they observed me mowing the grass with no proof. No proof of me being over here. No pictures, no video, no camera. And this is beside my property, my house. You can see my house there. And it stays in the states on the zoning codes. If you got 150 feet from your house, you're supposed to mow the grass. Any property within 150 feet in your zoning ordinance to keep the grass below 10 inches within 100 feet from any dwelling. They didn't recognize that. They didn't care about that. Well, I told the judge that this case was already in trial and was dismissed in somewhere around November of 23. And they sealed the case so I couldn't look into it. So I asked to recognize my Fifth Amendment of double jeopardy, so I don't have to re-criminate myself on a case that was already heard and dropped. Now it's the same property, the same person, in the same area, and she denied my Fifth Amendment. And I told the courts I invoked my Fifth Amendment right to double jeopardy. And she said, I denied your right. Are you innocent or guilty? And I said, innocent. She said, you're looking at a year in jail and a $2,500 fine. Are you willing to go through with this? I said, yes, I am. She said, are you ready for trial? Yes, I am. So as soon as the trial starts, they allow Mark Bomer to speak and say his words of a sign that is nowhere in existence on the ground that I was mowing by. Now there is a sign, and I'll show you this sign. Let me see if I can zoom into this one sign. This is the only sign that would be there, and I'm not nowhere near that sign. This property was mowed. It's here. There's no sign here, and I'm sure there's no picture of me passing a trespassing sign. It doesn't exist. Has not ever been. Anyway, he shows her about where the sign was and says, this is where I saw him from this location going by the road. This location here. I guess he rode by, saw me at a glimpse that I was mowing the HOA property. And whether it is the HOA property or not, that's what was dismissed, because this is an easement that we're on. It's an easement because there's a driveway that comes from here, goes all the way down, and I've showed that on the previous videos. This is an easement, 20-foot easement, runs along the property, adjacent to my property. I wanted to make sure to see what was going on, to talk about where I was on this property, and they showed nothing. It was hearsay. Well, I got the body cam footage of the officer that came the day that he called the police, and they walked through these woods, walked back this way, and when they walked back this way, they stopped somewhere around in that, there's a truck bed liner that blew over there from the storm. It's just sitting there. Somewhere about there is where they stopped at. I don't even think this grass was cut then. I couldn't see the pictures well. It was a very poor picture, black and white. So I'm not able to be for sure what was going on there. Doesn't matter. The officer walks through the woods, looks over here. He shows him a mower that's somewhere in my property. I don't know where the mower is, but he points to it. You can't really see on the body cam, and I'll post that video too. But when the cop gets out of the vehicle, Mark Bomer and the cop speak, and he said, hey, this guy's been trespassed from this property, and he knows better, and stay off the property. And the cop says, is he mental? And Bomer, I'm not for sure. I'm not educated in that, so I would not know. Well, the cop asked, has he went to court? He said, yes, he went to court. He said, was he convicted of it? He said, yes, he was convicted. And he said, you know what, so he was punished, or he got probation, or what? He said, yeah, he believed he got probation. I was punished, I was convicted, and all that was false. This case was dismissed, so I won't punish it. I won't convict it. So that was lying to the police officer, and if you talk to an officer, you're under oath. They record it. That's why you can't lie to an officer, because you're technically under oath when you talk to them, and anything you say can be used against you in court. And that's exactly what I asked the court to play the body cam footage of his testimony to the officer, showing that your words can't be trusted. You're not being truthful from what you're saying. And it was key for me to let the courts know that, because he's just going to tell you where I was and what I was doing instead of proving what I was doing or where I was. And I figured that would be the case, because I wasn't over here and I didn't do it. Now, before the previous case was dismissed, also the body cam footage of the officer shows him plotting on how to trespass me even though I wasn't on the property. And I asked for that body cam footage. They denied that and sealed it under the trespassing case. Sealed it so I could not get it. I would love to show the body cam footage of that, and I can't do it because this court, the prosecutor, the Commonwealth attorney, has sealed the case, not allowing me to have the evidence. So this time, I represented myself. So I don't have an attorney to keep the records from me. My attorney would not give me the footage that I needed to show the people what's going on. They're hiding it. So I represented myself. Like I said, it's probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done because I know what I'm up against. And this is where I need your help, people. I'm fighting for property that I have a right to be on. And before you even get to that part, you're trespassing me without proving I was even on there. If I have company come over, or just if anybody comes through here, and they say, well, Mr. Shreves is back on the property. Well, we're going to send the cops over there and have him arrested. Well, you never proved that I was ever over here in the first place. So if you can have me charged without even proving I was here, I have to move from here because you're always going to come back and keep doing it. So they're trying to get me off of my property. It's a land grab to get me off of this property. And when you do the research on the deed and titles to the property that I live on, you find out why they want you off of here. I have quiet, peaceful possession to a parcel of land that is right in here in these woods. I don't know if the person before me bought a place to bury somebody in the cemetery right beside, but that's what it kind of looks like. It states that. Or for some other reason, this property that I live on has quiet possession of the property beside it. All I have to do is show that in court, but the judge wouldn't look at it. The judge wouldn't look at the ordinance that says you got to cut the grass within 150 feet from your house. The cop wouldn't look at, the judge wouldn't look at the previous case that was dismissed. The judge also doesn't want to recognize the Open Space Land Act of how open space is used. That is what this property is marked as, open space. And they went with the homeowner association. Everything he said was because he said so. His name is not even the right name on the homeowner association. Edie's Landing Homeowner Association president is Mark Bowman. His name is Mark Bomer. I asked the courts, why is the name different? How do I know he's the HOA president? And everybody just stood around and looked at each other. I said, do you have anything proven that you're the HOA president? No, he don't have anything. Just his word. His word that was untruthful that I showed you in the body cam footage of the officer, proving that he's not even the right person on the internet. Now, he has a master's in business. If you have a master's in business and you've been here for, I guess, 9 years maybe, why would your name not be corrected as far as it goes for this long? You haven't have your name corrected by now on the website? You're going to court and you're punishing someone under your authority of the HOA president when the name doesn't even match up. So anybody should question that. How do you even know who this guy is? you need to see some kind of credentials showing that he's who he says he is, not just because I say so. You have a right to know who you're talking to. Well, if the case was dismissed a year ago and the attorney advised him to not speak with me, if you dismissed the case, you didn't charge me, and you advised him to not speak to me and stay away from me, how are we supposed to communicate with who was right or who was wrong? That was terrible on the Commonwealth attorney's part, because if he's the HOA president, how are you going to tell him to not talk to the homeowners that surround you? Hey, if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. But don't tell him, look, just drop it and don't talk to him no more. I don't see how that works out. Obviously, we're back at this because of the Commonwealth attorney. I'm going to have to appeal the case. And I don't want to hire an attorney because the last attorney done such a horrible job. That's why I never hired an attorney this in General District Court, because you can appeal the case. If I would have hired the attorney, I would have just lost the money, because the same outcome would have been you're guilty anyway. With no proof that I was guilty, just because you say so. And I proved that I have facts, documents with court of clerk recorded, nothing I've made up, proof of everything I'm talking about. But you went on hearsay with him with no factual proof. It's scary, because you stand up to the courts, and this is how bad it was, people. This is terrible. When I stood up in court and I went to talk to him, the judge said, you don't talk to him. And I looked and like, what do I do? Obviously, this is the first time I represent myself. I'm new here. I don't know what to do. The judge turns over to the Commonwealth attorney and asks the Commonwealth attorney, how do they talk to each other? How do they talk to each other? We're in the court of General District Court, and the judge doesn't know how we're supposed to talk to each other? This is because I've represented myself in front of that judge. That's the first time anyone has ever done that. How do you not know how to conversate in the courtroom? You're the judge. You should know how to have people talk to each other. That's your one job, is to make sure things go legal in the courtroom. And for her to say, I don't even know how they're supposed to talk to each other, that literally surprised me, and it surprised all of you. She has been there 30 years, and no one has ever stood up. I've been there 15, 20 times, and I've seen other people ask to represent themselves, and they made them have a court-appointed attorney. I've seen that with my own eyes. I was the first I know of that stood up in Chesapeake courts on a general district to represent myself. And they didn't know how I was going to talk to the other person. They tried everything to scare me away from doing the case, represent myself. They wanted to assure me that I could face a year in jail, $2,500 fine, which is true. That's maximum sentence for what's going on. And I have to be willing to face that myself. But I knew that I can appeal it. So it doesn't matter what she says. You have the right to appeal her decision. So I knew the outcome wasn't going to be what I wanted to be, but I know I have to get to a higher court. I need a jury. I need a jury to look at what's going on. The court case that was dismissed from the previous trespassing charges was dismissed when I asked for a jury. I don't know how you can dismiss the court case when I asked for the jury. The jury's supposed to hear the case. I paid so much money to hear a jury, or have a jury hear the case. And yet, it never happened. Well, now it's came back, because what do you think the results is if you dismiss a case and no one knows the outcome? You never proved before I was on the property. You lied about me being on the property, and you hid all the evidence from me being on the property. If it even was me on the property. All they had was pictures of the kids playing on the property. Not one picture of me. So the case was dismissed. For what reason, they won't even tell me why they dismissed it. They dragged the case out for 2 years, and then they dismiss it because they have the right to, because it took too long. It didn't take too long because of me. It took too long because they dragged it out. For whatever reason, they wanted to drag it out and have it dismissed. They need me trespassed from this property. This property is the oldest property surrounding this HOA. And on the deed book, it says that I have quiet possession of the property surrounding me. No wonder why they want this property. They can't go to the next stage of whatever their plans are until they get rid of this property. They have never met somebody like me before. Because you have to be willing to stand for your rights so firmly that you're going to lose everything. And I'm that person. I'm standing so strongly on my rights that I'm willing to lose everything. I'm running out of money. I'm stressed myself out. I've never felt anxiety before, but when I went in that courtroom and I represented myself in front of them, I felt it for the first time. Panic attack. And I held myself together and got through it. And I still knew the outcome, but I have to face the things that fear me the most. Nothing fears me more than corrupt system that I'm facing. I can't video inside the courtroom to show the process of appealing the cases, going to the court clerks, filing the paperwork, talking to the attorneys, doing all the shady shit that they're doing. I can't show you that because Chesapeake is so corrupt, they will not let you carry a camera to hold them accountable, which is your right. That is your First Amendment right, to hold them accountable with your camera, to video record the court clerk's information that they have with the records. You have the right to view the records of your local governments at any time. You have the right to check them and make sure everything is like it's supposed to be. But not in Chesapeake. You don't have rights here. They make you pull your belt off before you even get in there. You can't have no cell phone. If you even got keys that look funny, you're not allowed to have your keys. You don't have rights in Chesapeake. And I hope I reach out to the right group of people. And that's why I made this YouTube channel, because this Chesapeake is in Virginia has gone too far. Way too far. I want it to note also the inspector with the city inspector has been coming through the same property and taking pictures of everything in my yard. Well, when I asked for the emails They redacted the names on the emails, and because they redacted the names on the emails, I don't know the attorney's name, but I know the president, because it said the HOA president. It doesn't say his name, but we all know who that is, supposedly. It says he's contacting the inspector, and the inspector finally gets an email from the attorney stating that the attorney has advised us to stay off of the property. Well, I was wondering, why would this attorney advise you to stay off of the property if you're just doing your job? Why would the attorney tell them to stop doing their jobs? Well, I believe that they told them to stop, leave the property alone for now until the case has been resolved, because they're doing something they're not supposed to do. That would make good sense. And it does state in the emails, his supervisor said, we are not allowed to press on anything that we can't see from the public roads or the sidewalks. We're not allowed to go on private properties, trespass through private properties, to look in a private backyard. They're not allowed to do that. It says so in the emails. The attorney advised them to stay off and quit doing what they're doing. And then you can see why, because they even talk about in the emails, you can't take pictures of someone else's stuff in their backyard, submit it to the city, and say, here's the violations that he's doing, because how do they know it's my house? How do they know you took the pictures on my property? How do they know you didn't fabricate it or make it online and then send it to them? They don't. So that makes perfect sense. The city has to use their cameras that are dated, and they have to use their log to know when they visit the property, what time they did it, so they can verify. Well, that's not what's been going on here. This man has been taking pictures of my private backyard, calling the inspector, and they're coming after me over and over again, trying to get me for everything. So it's more than one person conspiring against me to charge me any charge they can come up with. And it even notes in the emails, no, we can't get him for a skateboard ramp. The kids are riding over the dirt hill. Can we get them for this code violation? No, that's for skateboard ramps. That's not for a dirt hill. So just because the kids were back here riding over a dirt hill, you wanted to fine me for that? Then you got boards holding the trees together so they can get strong, and I tied the trees together with some ropes and locked them together with some boards so they can the storms wouldn't blow them over, because the soil was loose, and I tried to strengthen them all together so they could build a good root system. And they want to say, you got to have a permit to do that. People, this whole woods is dangerous. You have trees that'll fall over at any time. You have limbs that could fall out and kill you if they're rotted. Lightning could strike them and weaken them, and you won't know. Wind could break them off, and they could be just laying above you. When the wind blows, it knocks them loose, and bam, right on you. You got poison ivy, snakes. You got raccoons, bats. I mean, you got a number of dangerous things. Ground bees. It's dangerous to be in the woods. I don't understand why they think they can come at me with some permit saying it's dangerous to have that board in the trees when the trees are dangerous to self. Stay away from the dangerous areas and you won't have to worry about it. It makes zero sense, and I hope you understand how ridiculous they sound when they're trying to come after me through a permit to have a shed that's way smaller than the 256 square feet that is noted in all of Virginia. Anything over 256 square feet does not need a permit in the state of Virginia. Now that's Virginia Building Code. And they want to try to say you got to have a permit for everything in your yard. If you got a picnic table, you got to have a building permit. Well, it's ridiculous. But I have to fight this. I hired an attorney, and he lost that case. And the judge says, because you went to the city and asked questions, you should know everything about it, so you're guilty. She didn't ask me what I knew. She just said because I asked questions, I am guilty. So that's why I appealed the case. I had that on November 6th. When I went to court for this case on November 6th, they said, your arrangement, this is for an arrangement. And I said, well, I got 2 emails in a paper from the city saying this was my trial date for the code violation. They said, no, this is an arrangement date. Well, an arrangement date means we need to find out what day's available to have the court date. Well, I gave them December 10th is when I'll be going to court for the building code violation. I don't understand how they could beat that, but I'll have to go in front of a judge. It does say when I have the appeal letter to put down trial by judge or jury. I did not think you could have a jury for a code violation. But the paperwork states I could mark jury on there. So I'm curious. Anyway, maybe that's just the paper they use. I'm not for sure. But I do plan on going in front of the judge on that one. I've got the law that clears me from that. Whether he recognizes it or not, I have no idea. I do plan on showing, hey, this is Virginia state law for building codes. I don't need a permit under this 256 square feet. And I want to ask, if the attorney told you and advised you to stay off the property and you shouldn't be back on the property, and you can't see the violation from the street or from the sidewalk, then you knew, or did you not know, that you were under Title 18, 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law. Even though it's an ordinance, it states whether you're trying to push a law or ordinance or code violation, you still would fall under Title 18, United States 242. So you're in violation of the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable searches. That is an unreasonable search. You're not supposed to come through other people's houses. Even if the homeowner gives him permission to come through there, he's given them permission to trespass the people that live next to me. He doesn't have possession of their property to allow the inspector to go through their property. He doesn't, I don't believe he has that authority. But when you do, you walk right past 2 violations that you can see from the street. Somebody please leave a comment and let me know if I should see if the inspector will violate the violations from the HOA people that have sheds on the property they're not supposed to have on the property. Now that I know the law, any shed that's under 256 square feet, you don't need a permit, but you do need it to be 5 feet off of the property line. And it's a violation. If it's not on your property at all, it's in violation. And there's 2 people in the HOA that you could see from the main road that they have sheds that ain't on their property, and it's on the line within 5 feet. So 100% they're in violation of those ordinance. And I don't care to aggravate those people. Probably have nothing to do with what's going on. But it just shows that the HOA is going out of their way to violate me, and they don't even mess with their own people. I'm not a part of the HOA. This guy has took his authority, even if he has that authority, way too far. This has been going on for over 10 years, and he's been videoing and watching the kids play, and he's collected that video for years. He's watched his neighbors swimming and playing in the pool at nighttime, and he's harassed and took pictures of the kids for going in the neighborhood, and he trespassed them from coming to their friend's house in the neighborhood by posting trespassing signs on the sidewalk for the kids going to their friend's house. I don't know why the city gives this guy so much power. I don't know why the Commonwealth Attorney represents somebody that lives in an $800,000 house. And when you went to General District Court, he doesn't hire the Commonwealth Attorney. The court appoints that person to you. If you know anything about that, update me if that's something they shouldn't be doing. If the Commonwealth Attorney can represent the person in court, if they make well over amount of money, like if you can't afford an attorney, you would hire, if you try to hire an attorney, you would hire your own attorney, but if you can't afford one, the courts would appoint you one. But would they appoint you, the Commonwealth Attorney, if you're a Chief Navy officer that's a master of business and lives in the $800,000 homes? It is just, you qualify way too high. I don't know how much he qualifies for. I have no idea. Maybe he lost everything and he qualified. I have no idea. It struck me as odd that they're representing him. And I called and asked him 2 months before he's being represented by the Commonwealth for the information. They said he's not being represented by us until he asks for our help. We cannot help him. Well, I asked, when did he come for help? They don't want to answer anything. I've got a lot of good questions that's going to incriminate them, and they're not going to answer it. I'm not going to get nowhere. I can't carry a video, some recording phone or anything to be able to record in there to show you how crooked the system is. You know, why do they go out so far out of the way to hide all the information from you? Why are they going so far as to giving you the runaround on the paperwork? They don't want to answer simple questions. Usually I have to call them from my phone, and then I record that. And I'm going to show you some of those. I was worried that if I showed some of that stuff, they would say, well, you got an open case, and that's against the law to be able to show that while you're in cases going on through courts. But long as it's open to the public, I'm safe. If it's public information, everything that's been recorded is public information, then I don't see where I'm in threat of anything. The body cam footage, that's public information, so I will be posting that. You'll be able to see that. Some of the phone calls would consider private. I'll check on that. But if I were to have the video footage of me going into the courthouse recording everything, then that would be the same thing as it's open to the public. And then me going and interacting with them is the same thing as what the public would see. So I would be able to show that stuff. That's why it's important that we can show that stuff. But we don't have rights in Chesapeake, Virginia. You don't have the right to record in the courthouse. I understand the courtroom, but that's the difference. You have hallways that are open to the public. You have the place of business. What you're going to do is the court clerk, you can record in those areas, and the records room where the deeds are, you have to pay money to get a copy of the deed books. And I'm spending tons of money for spending paperwork when I could have just used my phone to record in there. But this is designed to get your money. There's no way in the world they should be charging you for records fees when you could just bring your device in there and record it. And they hide all this under, we want to protect the witnesses in the courtroom, so you're not allowed to bring a phone in there. Well, I was witness to another Commonwealth attorney that was taking pictures of a witness and then sending it to another person. Of course, I didn't have my phone in there, but I saw her pick her phone up, take pictures of a witness, and then send it to somebody. Now, they're breaking the laws that are not supposed to be happening in there, but they're the ones doing it. They can bring their briefcases in there, and they can bring all their stuff in there with no problem, go right through the scanners and everything. But yet I put all my stuff through the scanner, and they still want me to take my belt off. It's humiliating. It's humiliating and disgusting that we allow them to get this far, that you got to start taking your belt off, because your pants, when you're an elderly person, your pants fall down and you get embarrassed. Anyway, I'm going to have to end the video here. I'm going to appeal the case, and I'm going to get some more information for y'all and put it up on the YouTube, and hopefully it gets out. Please comment, share this to the right people. We know who they are. We know who we need in this area. They're making a difference, people. They're having corrupt people lose their jobs because you have to video. Our word against their word doesn't work. You got to video it. If you don't video it, your word is no good. You got to prove to people what you're doing, what they're doing. This place will get better once you can show where the problem is. The problem is the city officials. The cop actually did a very good job when he showed up, and you'll see the cop, he did a great job. And that'll be one of the best times I've ever seen. The cop showed up and he asked the right questions. It's the homeowner association president that lied and put him in a position, but I think he did a pretty good job. Anyway, y'all determine that, and I'll post the videos. Thanks, and enjoy your evening. Bye.